everybody. You're tuned in to This, That, and the Other. I'm your host, Magic, and we're joined today by Hoovcats as of January 2014 member. And he's got over 2,100 wins, a 952 winning percentage, 108 conference championships, and 48 national championships. So the gentleman definitely knows what he's doing. We're eager to hear what he has to say. Welcome to the show, Hoovcats.
Hello there.
Hey, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, anything you're willing to share with the audience today.
Sure. I'm originally from the Kansas City area. I went to Kansas State and graduated there, Kansas State University, which is where I got the Hoovcats name. A lot of times the Kansas State Wildcats were referred to as the Snyder Cats, who was the long-term coach there. And so I copied that over to Hoovcats. And then I've moved around the Southeast from Charlotte to Florida, and I've been in Atlanta, Georgia for, I guess it's been about 25 years.
Well, you're not far away from the previous guest, Seabreak. He's also from the Georgia area, so you guys may need to together and share a beer one day.
Definitely.
So let's get started. Before I actually give you the questions, I do want to point out that my mistake with Seabreak was failing to get his numbers. So I selected some random numbers and threw them into the randomizer, and these are the questions that popped out. So here we go. What is your preferred defense?
I use a 3-4, and I tend to like to have just one offensive formation and one defensive formation so they can focus on just those two. But for defense, I use a 3-4.
Okay. Is there any reason you use a 3-4? Anything particular about that setup that plays to your liking?
I think for me, being that I want to use just one formation, the 3-4 is the most universal. In the past, I used to do a 4-4 and a nickel, but decided to move to just focusing on one formation. So that's why I use the 3-4.
All right. What aspect of Gridiron Dynasty do you feel you're the best at? Is it recruiting, game planning? What is it that you're the best at?
I don't know about best, but I think I try to focus on a combination of recruiting, which is, I think, the most important part of the game, and then game planning and player development.
What are your thoughts on blitzing? Who do you blitz? When do you blitz? And why do you blitz?
I don't blitz much. I know Blitz is Coming has a lot of strategies around the blitzing, but I don't blitz a whole lot. And when I do out of the 3-4, I usually blitz a linebacker occasionally, maybe a free safety. But for the most part, I don't blitz a lot. And when I do, it's pretty selective at specific down and distances and all of that.
We're going into our first break. Don't go away.
In a world where everyone's on and no one's unplugged, where being busy is a badge of honor, where the race from the gym to the office to the carpool and to the kitchen is unrelenting, when your spouse asks, "What should we do for dinner?" and your boss demands, "I need this ASAP," every single day. And silence and solitude is only achieved when your phone battery dies. We bring you a new kind of hero. Nothing. Yes, nothing. Just nothing. Nada. No phone, no Netflix, no cooking, no laundry, no Snapchat, no scrolling, no swiping left or right. Nothing is here to save you.
Well, a stone came up and hit your windshield. It came right out of left field. Don't fret. Call 855 Royal Glass.
Our technicians will come to your home or office to repair your cracked windshield. If it can't be repaired, they can replace it. Many insurance companies will pay for repairs, and we will file the claim for you. Call now.
Call 855 Royal Glass. The Royal treatment's really fast. 855 Royal Glass. Your broken glass, we'll fix it fast.
Welcome back, everybody. You're tuned in to This, That, and the Other. Hoovcats is our guest today, and we're starting our second segment. And this segment, he gets to spin the mic. In other words, we turn the microphone over to him, and he gets to ask me a question. So is there anything in particular that you want to know about me or the game, the way I play it?
That's great. I haven't prepared anything, so I guess my question would be, when you recruit, do you focus in that 180, 360, or do you have more of a national approach?
It depends on the quantity of the recruiting class and how much money I have for that particular class. Primarily, I try to balance my classes. So I'll speak from a 11 to 13 type number class. In that case, what I'll do is I will look within the 360 and identify each of those players in 360, whether I have a need for them on my roster or not, because I believe in getting the best person for any position that's there. Now, I temper that without cutting myself short in one particular position. So if I have the opportunity, I may grab somebody that I have an abundance of at that position already, just because they're solid, and primarily if they're going to be a starter early on. But for the most part, I look at the 360 range and call the players there depending on their potential and work ethic and roster needs. But then what I'll also do is any undecideds nationally, I'll go ahead and send them a phone call. A lot of times, especially at the D2 level, those recruits may turn green for you just with a phone call. And in doing so, there are times when closer schools will shy away from them because they're already green to you and they're trying to avoid a battle, even though it's just a $10 assistant coach phone call. So that's kind of my recruiting strategy going in for the majority of the time. Good question.
No, it's good stuff.
All right. Have you gotten anyone else to join What If Sports? And if so, who was it?
I haven't. I've extended an invitation to a couple friends, but they weren't able to do it due to time.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I've had two people join, didn't stick around long, and tried to recruit some folks from working in my social network. I guess they just don't have the passion for it like we do.
Yeah, I wish I could have more time to do more teams. I've only had the 2 teams all throughout, I guess, my tenure or whatever. I wish I had time to do more teams and do more experimenting.
Well, right now you've got Indianapolis and Heisman, and in Hayes you have Emporia State, both of which are undefeated. It looks like Indy currently is 16-0, and Emporia is 8-0. So you've got those guys on the right track. Defensively, other than down and distance, what else factors into you deciding whether to use short, medium, or long settings for your defense?
I think a lot of that comes down to game planning against your specific opponent. I think it's looking at your opponent and finding out what they're trying to do or what they consistently have tendencies to do, and then try to match that up, as well as also, where I may have some strengths or weaknesses with my linebackers and defensive backs. That whole combination kind of goes into my game plan there.
What do you like best about Gridiron Dynasty?
I kind of touched on it before. I think I really enjoy the recruiting. I like the game planning, and then watching the player development and trying different things with recruits or new players that may not have the best technique or stamina and seeing, how over 3 or 4 years they develop. And then that helps me know in other recruiting seasons what I can and can't do with different players.
It's break time again, so folks, join us as we kick off segment 3 right after this.
If you want a fast, sure way to kill flies and mosquitoes, try Fly Dead. This pleasantly scented liquid spray combines fast action and sure death. In fact, it is so fatal to germ-carrying insects that Fly Dead meets the government's highest standards, has earned a AA rating for effectiveness. Try Fly Dead.
They sure work hard, don't they, Barney?
Yeah? I hate to see them work so hard.
Yeah, me too. Let's go around back where we can't see them.
Gee, we ought to do something, Fred.
Okay? How's about taking a nap?
I got a better idea. Let's take a Winston break.
That's it! Winston is the one filter cigarette that delivers flavor 20 times a pack. Winston's got that filter blend.
Filter blend makes the big taste difference, and only Winston has it, up front where it counts. Here, ahead of the pure white filter. Winston packs rich tobaccos specially selected and specially processed for good flavor in filter smoking.
Yeah, Barney, Winston tastes good, like a cigarette should.
Thanks for staying with us, folks. We're joined today by Hoovcats for episode 9 of This, That, and the Other. And his first question in segment 3 is, any tips on isolating your wide receiver against the defense to get him the most looks or catches opportunities?
Yeah, I think there's been some tips in the chat area or the forums that people have discussed that. I don't do a lot of focus on one receiver or one running back. I'm a firm believer in balanced offense, both rushing and passing, and also to kind of spread out amongst all my receivers and running backs. And my thought around that is trying to make sure an opponent can't defensively game plan for me around one particular area. So I like to make it more random or more spread out to keep the defenses on their toes.
How do you set up your offensive line? Is it different for runs versus passes? If so, how do you decide who goes where?
Yeah, I'll do that a little bit on the outside runs versus middle runs. I think there's been some chats around the belief that having better strength numbers for inside and better blocking tendencies for the outside. I don't know if I've seen any real proof in that, but I will do that with some of my running game planning.
All right, and the last question we have is, what qualities do you look for in a run-stopping defensive back?
Will you ask that one more time?
What qualities do you look for in a run-stopping defensive back?
Gosh, for a run-stopping defensive back, I don't know if I've focused on that specifically, but I think probably having high attribute levels in tackling and in strength and technique would probably be the three main values.
All right, excellent segment. That's going to conclude your interview today, with the exception of the numbers for the next guest and your parting words of wisdom. So let's go ahead and get those numbers first. That way I don't forget them this time.
Sure, let's go with 1, 6, 8, 10, and 13, and 18, 27, 28, 34, and 44.
Okay, that's 10. So what are your parting words for our listening audience?
Well, I'd like to say thanks for all the competition from all the coaches I run up to. are run up against on a consistent basis. And a special shout out to you for doing these podcasts. For me, it's been extremely entertaining, and I think great for the Gridiron Dynasty community. So thanks for doing it.
Again, my pleasure. I say that quite often, but it truly is. I enjoy doing these, and I've got the system set up now to where it's easily done. There's not a lot of labor involved, and it makes it even more enjoyable. Well, thanks again for joining us today, Hoovcats, and our listening audience. You've been listening to This, That, and the Other. I'm your host, Magic. Join us next time.